Everyone, I'm Bradford of the Penny Guide to Personal Finance. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Earned Income Tax Credit, or EITC. I'll give you a brief overview of what it is, who it's for, what the eligibility requirements are, and then I'll show you where you can go on the IRS website to be able to figure out your exact eligibility requirements based on your specific tax circumstances. So starting off, the Earned Income Tax Credit, it is a tax credit designed to help low to moderate income workers and their families get a tax break when it comes time for tax season. Now, there are two important things that I do want to make you aware of. The first one is that there are special rules that do apply for military as well as clergy members, and I'm not going to be covering any of those specifics in this video. The other thing I want to make you aware of is that even though this video is going to be coming out mid-February 2025, if you're watching this in the future, if you file your taxes at the beginning of the tax season, usually around January 27th, you will not be able to receive your federal tax refund per federal law any point prior to mid-February, specifically if you are claiming this tax credit. Now, it's not a reason not to claim it because it could be money back in your pocket. Just to be aware of, if it's taking longer than normal for you to actually receive your tax refund, that's probably why. Now, going on to the next thing is that in the name, earned income, it is important to understand what is considered to be earned income and what is considered to not. So here's kind of 6 categories that I brought it together from the IRS website that are considered to be earned income. The first one is basically going to be any sort of W-2 income, which is going to be the vast majority of earners in the United States. The second thing is going to be basically any sort of income where your employer did not withhold the taxes up front. Think of things like the gig economy. So this can be driving a car, think Uber, running errands or doing tasks. If you're selling goods online like Etsy, providing creative or professional services, as well as other temporary or on-demand or freelance work, think things like Fiverr. Now, money made from self-employment, basically any sort of self-employed business that you're doing kind of crosses over with some of this freelance work, but separate from that would be if you're a minister or a member of a religious order, or you're a statutory employee and you have income. Other things that are going to be considered earned income is going to be if you do receive benefits from a union strike and you're part of a union, if you got certain disability benefits you got before you reach the minimum retirement age. I'm not going to be covering those specifics in this video. And then any sort of non-taxable combat pay. So if you are in the military, talk to your finance office to be able to understand if you did actually serve in a combat tax exclusion zone. And even if you're not aware if you actually did, it will be annotated in box 12 with the code Q or Quebec on your W-2. Now, for things that are not considered earned income, this is going to be any sort of pay if you were at a penal institution as an inmate, any sort of interest or dividends, pensions or annuities, Social Security income, unemployment benefits, alimony, and child support. Now, there's a couple of things that we're going to have to be able to understand whether or not you are eligible for or not before we go into the income restrictions. Now, at the top of this list is that you had to be a U.S. citizen or resident for the entire tax year. You have to actually file a tax return. Even if you qualify for the EITC, but you don't file a tax return, you're not going to get it. You must have a valid Social Security number for yourself. If you're married filing jointly, for yourself and your spouse. If you're claiming any sort of dependents, they also have to have a valid Social Security number as well. And then you cannot file a return with Form 2555, which is foreign earned income. Now, let's go into what are these income restrictions. So it kind of breaks it out like this. The biggest part that's going to impact you is going to be the number of dependents. Then it's going to be broken down into if you are a single filer income limit, and then if you are doing married filing jointly income limit. So starting off here, for no children, for single filer, it's going to be 18,591, and it's a little bit more than that if you're married filing jointly with no kids. It's going to be 25,511. The maximum amount of the credit that you could receive is going to be $632. Now you can see as soon as we go to one child, it really increases. So if you're single, it's going to be just over $49,000. If you're married filing jointly with one dependent, it's going to be just over $56,000. The biggest thing is that the amount of maximum credit jumps significantly, going from $632 to $4,213. And then you can see it slowly increases and then it caps out at 3 children. So if you have 3 children or 3 dependents, and even if you have 6 children or 6 dependents, you're going to be receiving the same amount as if you only had 3. So it's going to cap out the maximum amount that you could receive for the EITC for the tax year 2024 is going to be $7,830. An important caveat, I throw it down here, is that your any sort of investment income that you receive, it is going to be limited to $11,600. So if you make $1 more than that, you are not going to be eligible for the earned income tax credit. Now, what we're going to be actually going over to on the IRS website is going to be the EITC assistance. It tells you how it works, and what you need. You need to know your filing status. You need to know all your sources of income so that way you can add it up. And then you can also throw on any sort of expenses or adjustments to income that will affect your AGI. Now let's actually head over to the IRS website and I'll walk you through how this tool works. So here we have the IRS website. To get here, just go to www.irs.gov and then you can just type in the search bar up here, EITC Assistant, and it should bring you to this page. Now let's click use the EITC Assistant, and then there's 5 steps before it actually gets you to the results, telling you what sort of credit you should expect if you are eligible, or if you're not eligible, it'll let you know that as well. So we can just say in here, general information, pick the tax year that we're interested in. Since this one last year is 2024, we'll say, yes, we were a resident for the entire year. Do we have a social security number? Yes. Are we filing form 2555? No, that's important. And someone else claim you, we're going to say no for this example. And they'll say the age is between 25 and 64. Click next. Filing status. Do you know the filing status that you're going to be using? For this one, let's just say yes. Let's use married filing jointly. Does your spouse have a valid social security number? I'm going to say yes in this one. Do you plan to claim children that have social security number? We'll say yes. And then we're going to go to the next page. Please note for this one, I'm just going to make it simple. Let's just say we only received a W-2 income. So I'm just going to say this one. Enter the amount. We'll make it $40,000 is the total amount between myself and my imaginary spouse in this scenario. And then we're just going to go down to the bottom. You don't have to put a child's name in here, but it's going to ask you some questions to see if that child is a qualifying dependent for the EITC. So did they live with you for more than half of the past year? I'm going to say yes in this example. Can someone else claim it? No. Is this child married and can file a joint return with his or her spouse? I'm also going to say no. Is this child permanently and totally disabled? I'm going to say no. What is this child's relationship to you? I'm going to make it simple. Let's just say it's a standard child. How old is this child? We'll say 18 and under. And then does this child have a valid social security number? I'm going to say yes. And so it's going to give you a little green area that says yes, the child qualifies. If you go through all this, and then so I'll just show you right here. If I said no, it'll say please note, you're probably not going to be eligible to be able to qualify towards the EITC with regards to you and your tax return. So I'm just going to go back and change this back to yes. And then I'm going to click next. And we're going to go in here and it says cool. Based on the information you provided, you are eligible for the EITC for an estimated amount of $2,554. And then it's going to give you a couple options for how you can actually file your tax return to be able to get this. And then it's going to give you some other information that you can go in here based on all of your inputs as well as your corresponding outputs. If you want to save it, you can go in here, print it directly to your printer or save it as a PDF. Those are your options that are available to you. Now, after you go through all those steps, you should have a pretty good idea whether or not you're going to be eligible to be able to claim the Earned Income Tax Credit. But stop. Before you go and file your taxes, make sure you're using one of the options that's going to allow you to file your taxes for free without having to pay some sort of third party. Now, if you're curious what those options are, you're going to definitely want to check out this video we have right here of 6 options that are going to allow you to file your taxes completely for free. And I want to thank you for joining me today. And from your first penny to your first million, we're here to help.